This is Cunninghar and just opposite the cemetery, on the road going east to Dollar at the location of the ancient 100-foot diameter stone circle. This monument would definitely have put Tillicoultry on the archaeological map if it was still standing, but unfortunately the area was destroyed by industrialists in the 18 and 1900s, when the stones and the sand underneath them were carted away as building materials, leaving an area that would locally be known as the sandpit. However, the capstone that covered the burial cyst that was set at the centre of the stone circle did survive, as it was moved up to Tillicoultry House. And in around 1970, before the Fir Park houses were built, I can remember seeing it one dark night with its cup and ring markings, but at a slightly different location from where it is today. At that time it was known locally as the Druid Stone. Growing up in this village, I knew the Cunninghar location well, and I remember my grandfather telling me that the reason they put the cemetery just opposite was because the ground was so easy to dig, as the whole area was effectively a large sandbank. For years after that, I'd always wondered why there was a sandpit at such a high altitude, and especially at that location that was so far away from the sea. It wasn't until the 1980s when I borrowed a book from Dunfermline Library called The Story of the Fourth by H.M. Cadell that it all started to fall into place. This book explained that the whole of the low-lying area to the south of the local hills was flooded with water at the end of the last ice age, and the book also had illustrations to show this. It is now known that around 20,000 years ago, Scotland was covered in glaciers up to a height of 1 kilometre in places, and that the sheer weight of the ice pushed much of central Scotland down into the ocean, a process known as isostatic depression. By around 9,500 to 6,500 years ago, however, the polar ice caps had partially melted and caused the world's oceans to rise and cover most of Dogger Bank in the North Sea, which had previously linked most of Britain and Ireland to Europe. But the heavy glaciers in the mountainous areas of Scotland were still in retreat, so the considerable weight of the glaciers combined with the high sea levels meant that the low-lying land of central Scotland was flooded by tens of metres of seawater in many areas. The consequence of this was that the Forth estuary reached much further inland than it does today, stretching as far as Vickers Bridge beyond Dollar in the east and Gartmore beyond Aberfoyle in the west. The effects of the high water at this time can easily be seen by looking at land formations just west of Vickers Bridge and at many other sites around Clackmannanshire, Stirlingshire, Fife, Angus and Perthshire. I discovered a second book in the late 1970s which stated that a farmer in the 17 or 1800s had dug up what appeared to be a boat anchor in the low-lying ground at Pitgober at Vickers Bridge. I can't remember the title of this book, but the story ties in well with the other observations around the local area. All of this suggests that the ancient sea loch from Menstrie to Pitgober should really be called the Strathdevin Estuary. So after multiple observations over the years, I've taken the low-lying land at Pitgober to be an approximate datum point of when the sea level was at its maximum, and most likely for the longest period of time. And this gives me an ancient sea level of approximately 35 metres higher than it is today. Moving back to Cunninghar and Tillicoultry, when I use LiDAR data to check the ancient 35 metre sea level, it appears that the Cunninghar stone circle would very likely have been at the end of a peninsula, with tidal land access from the local hills. And being the most southerly point of an ancient sandbank, this would have been a relatively safe place for sea-going hunters to access, being a sandy outcrop located at the side of an inland sea loch, with clear views towards Stirling and Pitgober. Now, while I'm quite sure that archaeologists would insist that there is no proof whatsoever that the stone circle was present at the time that the sea level was at 35 metres, it does make me wonder if this particular location was perhaps marked as an ancient landing point and perhaps considered sacred, and that this had been carried on down the ages by repeatedly replacing an earlier marking method by a standing stone, progressing to a stone circle as the centuries rolled on. Now this is pure speculation, but as possible carved totem poles were found in the old visitors' car park at Stonehenge, in the form of 4 post holes, where charcoal was carbon dated between 8500 and 6700 BC. This tends to open the possibility that it could also have been the case here, especially as the landscape would have been covered in an abundant supply of ancient forests. So does this area have more hidden history than was originally believed? After a bit of research into place names and their origins, I found it quite interesting that there are 2 old Irish Gaelic words that when combined make the word Tulacutri. The first word being Tulla, which means flood, and the second word being Coultra, which means head of strand, or the uppermost part of a beach or shoreline that typically remains dry except during extreme high tides or storm events. Now, while I'm no expert in the Irish Gaelic language, it does seem to be a bit more than just coincidence that both these Gaelic words combined describe the ancient physical landscape of this raised beach, peninsula and surrounding sandbanks with such accuracy. Tulla Coultry could be the name that described what was probably the original part of Tulacutri. The location and the etymology of Pitgober is also interesting, as just like Aberdeen and Aberdour, it contains the word Aber, which is apparently composed of the Celtic word ab, meaning water, which has Sanskrit roots, and also the Celtic word ber, which means to pour into, which again has Sanskrit roots. This word combination, which suggests the river that pours into the water, along with the location of Pitgober, reinforces the theory that the seawater reached this location in the distant past, and that Pitgober was given this name for a very good reason. I would also speculate that the word harbour could have similar and relevant etymological links. It is quite interesting that there are so many other Scottish place names containing the word Aber that are not currently at present day sea level, but are just above the 35 metre mark. But I'll cover many of these in future videos, as that's what this channel is really about. And as for the word Cunninghar, the word cunning has a Proto-Germanic origin from around 2,500 years ago, and it means to know or to be able to, and it is connected to wisdom. The word har is also a local name for the thick fog that comes in from the east, and the word harvest also clearly means the gathering of crops, all having a meaning of bringing in or gathering together. I had always thought of this location as being a gathering place of the wise ones, and putting this together, it does suggest that Cunninghar could well be an early pre-Celtic, pre-Druidic gathering place for cultures such as those who built Stonehenge about 4,500 to 3,500 years ago. And what better a place than a very prominent peninsula with a stone circle? So to my conclusion, there have been many theories over the years about the possibility of the people of the west coast of Ireland originating from northern Africa and the far eastern side of the Mediterranean. And while it is clear that Scottish Gaelic originated in Ireland, it clearly sounds plausible that many of these place names of unknown origin could well have Old Irish, Germanic or Middle Eastern roots, and that the people using these ancient names could well have been present in this area when it was still flooded up to 35 metres. However, as I said earlier, most of these etymological ideas are based on my own speculation, but as they say, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. My initial idea was to create a single long video that covered a few of the more important sites that I've looked at over the years. But as I keep finding new locations with unexpected and unusual links to the 35 metre sea level, it became clear that it would make more sense to have a separate video for each site, so my plan is to add them on this channel on an ongoing basis. So if you managed to get this far, thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos about many other locations linked to the raised sea levels of ancient Scotland.